Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Development Committee of DuPage County of March 19th. May we have a roll call, please?
Member Krajewski.
Here.
Member Chaplin. Here. Member Guston. Member Ozog. Member Rutledge. Chair Tornatori.
Here. And we have a quorum. We'll begin with as soon as members Zhang and Krajewski are done. Thanks. Sorry, guys. Just some brief comments from me and to the members of the public who are here, some of you for the first time. This committee is a recommending committee. What we do this morning is review evidence that's been presented by the Zoning Board of Appeals. Any comments that are made today by any of you are just that. They're comments, they're public comments. We do not take any new testimony at this hearing, as the record was closed at the conclusion of the ZBA. We don't engage in questions and answers with the developers or any members of the public, but certainly those people who are here, I think, given what I see, we should be able to get everybody in. We may ask some questions of staff, members of the committee, and any other members if we have time. And our vote today will be either to make a positive or a negative recommendation to the full county board for a vote next week. That's where the vote regarding this and any other zoning issues do take place. To the committee members, I think all of you have received a letter from the attorney from the petitioner. I would just remind you that that letter is not to be used as evidence. It's essentially public comment. Certainly, Mr. Lukians, as everybody else, has a right to send us those letters, but again, it's evidence and it's not evidence, it's public comments. I know that's sometimes a distinction without a difference, but we're going to try to get that way as we have in the past. So moving on, public comment. Our rules for public comment are that we have 30 minutes of public comment, not to exceed 3 minutes per speaker. Again, this is comment, not evidence. To be fair, what we would generally do is try to make sure that the public comment equals the people who may be for or against a particular issue. Although in looking at the sheet, the sign-in sheet, there's one person here for and the rest are opposed. So I don't think we're going to have a problem with that. What I'm going to do is start with people who are representing either the villages or homeowners associations, because they obviously represent more than individuals. Any additional time, we'll just go through the rest of it. Hopefully everyone who wants to speak will get a chance to speak. I think we will. But if not, your names will be entered into the record. We did have 76 electronic public comments in opposition to this that were submitted to all of the committee members. Those names will be entered into the record as well. Again, each speaker will have a 3-minute limit. Council is going to give you a 10-second warning, and then at that point, I'm going to ask you to wrap up. Hopefully, you won't be offended if you're cut off. I will try not to do that, but try to keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. We will begin with the aforementioned Phil Lukians on behalf of the petitioner. Council, you're up.
Good morning. As Mr. Tornatori said, I am the attorney for the applicant. He also mentioned the letter I sent to you. I do want you to know that that letter is nothing more than a summary of the evidence. I did not intend that to be any new evidence. The only thing new in there is
speak into the mic. We're having a hard time.
The only thing new in there is that the applicant has agreed to reduce the number of units from 70 to 60, which is a 14% decrease in units. Other than that, everything in the letter is exactly what was in the record. So the record shows that we guaranteed 20% of the units would be single family. Of these units would be for workforce housing. As you know, and I know this board's been dealing with for a while, this county needs workforce housing throughout the county. I have heard recently that there has been some statement that the workforce housing may not be available, the program, for 12 to 18 months. If that's the case and you deny units developments like this, you're going to be finally getting workforce housing in about 2026 or 2027. There is an immediate need for this type of housing, and this project brings at least a start to that need. You're going to hear probably about the developments to the north, and I'll talk about that for a second, but you have to remember what is directly to the east of this. This project property backs up to heavy industrial big boxes. This use is a nice transitional use. It's single family attached dwellings. And when you compare the density, the actual density, not just the units, but the density between this and the project to the north, this project is actually less dense. It has 46% impervious surface at most compared to 67% to the north. 55% FAR compared to 67 at the north. 18% building coverage versus 28% to the north. This proposed development is allowed under your bulk and plan development standards as set forth in the ordinance, as also opined by the state's attorney's office. This will have a maximum monthly rent of $1,481 for a 1-bedroom, $1,564 for a 2-bedroom, and $2,126 for a 3-bedroom. The project will need to comply with the Fannie Mae sponsored dedicated workforce housing program, and it will comply with that. As you also know, this is a conditional use. We're not asking for a variance. This is a conditional use, which goes under the living word standard, which the Illinois Supreme Court has held is that it has a presumption of validity and can only be overcome by, quote, clear and convincing evidence, end quote, that the granting of the conditional use permit will result in real or substantial harm to the public health, safety, morals, or welfare. Nothing about this project
I'm going to ask you to try to wrap up.
will result in substantial harm to that. Real quickly, the ZBA members, none of them denied it except one on any real conditional use standards where he said, and that wasn't even that, he said it didn't have municipal sewer and water and he didn't like that. That is not a standard. You have the ability, everybody has the ability in this county to use well and septic under the right circumstances, and this complies. Thank you for your time, and I apologize if I went slightly.
Thank you. Okay, next person, Peter Scalera from the Village of Bloomingdale. We're speaking in opposition.
Good morning, Chairperson Tornatore and committee members. I am here representing the Village of Bloomingdale and the Village Board of Trustees who object to the development of this parcel, which would negatively impact our residents and our village. The land use and architectural style proposed for this project is inconsistent with the surrounding residential neighborhoods. The materials to be used for the units is also inconsistent with the townhomes to the north and the single-family homes to the west. And to state that the quality of the materials to be used is similar is not true and misleading. The proposed product types are also inconsistent with the project itself in that the submittal, as we've reviewed it, have 3 very distinct architectural styles, none of which are complementary to the other. Furthermore, the developer has taken extra efforts to landscape the Addison and unincorporated property lines to the north and south of the subject property, but little has been done to landscape and screen the expansive frontage along Medina Road, which would be the most visible to the Bloomingdale residents. Due to the density of the project, the proposed site design does not allow for enough visitor on-street parking. The numerous driveways leave little space between them, leading to site distance issues for vehicles leaving a driveway. Additionally, available on-street parking at the corners of the internal street will cause site distance issues for vehicles and emergency vehicles traveling through the subdivision. The village is also concerned with the increase in traffic this project will bring. The village is not confident that the traffic study conducted for this project is accurate in that the counts were not performed during peak travel hours and days. Since the applicant did not provide the village the courtesy of coming to meet with us prior to filing its application with the county, our village engineering staff had to review the plans submitted as part of the application. Our village engineer and water operations supervisor are extremely concerned with the stormwater impact to our village. At the forefront of these concerns is the current natural drainage pattern versus the proposed. Based on existing grades, a large percentage, over half of the subject property, currently drains to the northeast of the property and is controlled by stormwater management structures within the village of Addison. The smaller remaining portion is diverted down Medina Road and is deposited into the Bloomingdale Golf Course pond and water hazard on Lake Street, prior to being directed further downstream. Based on the plans as submitted, the engineer for this project is proposing to collect 100% of the site's water and direct it into the same pond on our village-owned golf course, which is unacceptable. In addition, the stormwater management concerns, the proposed project also includes an approximately 20,000 square foot on-site sanitary system to the east of the development. This clearly poses several health, safety, and welfare concerns for not only our village and the village of Addison
Committee needs to
systems,
wrap up
but our
anyway.
adjacent residents. Yes. And then the last point in regards to the workforce aspect of the project being promoted, the village supports the county's initiative, but the goal is to provide affordable housing near public transportation. This is not the appropriate location. The nearest Pace bus stop is at Army Trail and Walter Drive, which is a 1.5-mile walk. And the nearest metro station is at Medina, which is a 2-mile walk from this location. We ask that you please take these concerns into your deliberations and you vote to or not recommend this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jim Tierney representing Villa Torino. I believe that's the homeowners association.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Development Committee. My name is James Tierney. I am a resident homeowner at 2406 Nicola Court in Addison. I'm a member of the board of the Villa Torino Homeowners Association, and I'm speaking on the board's behalf today. Our 19 townhomes are adjacent to the north side of the development under consideration and would be most affected by this construction. Now, the developer is seeking an exception to the county zoning ordinance, as I understand it, to allow building 70 apartment units, which would add an estimated 185 residents to our neighborhood, along with 140 vehicles. As I understand the county zoning ordinance, it provides that exceptions to regulations, such as requested by the developer, may be granted if it will result in better developments and thus be of greater benefit both to the occupants of the development and the surrounding neighborhood. The developer has not offered any evidence as to how this proposed development will benefit the surrounding neighborhood. In fact, the development offers no benefits, only detriments to our neighborhood and properties. Now, the DuPage County Zoning Board of Appeals voted unanimously and found that the developer has not demonstrated or provided sufficient evidence that the proposed development will not be injurious to the neighborhood. Decreased property values, increased traffic and noise, as well as the potential for increased flooding are the inevitable effects of this development. Now, the Zoning Board of Appeals joins a long list of opponents to this development, including the Village of Addison. You heard from the Village of Bloomingdale, all of the homeowners associations in the vicinity, and our 3 county board members. Now, we understand that the DuPage County Board is eager to establish a workforce housing program. And while we support this effort, we believe it should be accomplished in conformance with county zoning ordinances, which protect existing neighborhoods from the negative impact of large developments such as this proposal, whether such developments include workforce housing or not. Surely there are many properties in DuPage County which will accommodate large developments and include significant workforce housing units while not posing a detriment to existing neighborhoods, as does this proposal now before you. So we urge you to oppose this development with a recommendation to the full DuPage County Board to do so as well. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person, Joseph, is it Fortunado? Can't read it, I'm sorry. It is Fortunado, okay. Speaking in opposition.
Morning, Chairman Tortori and members of the County Board Development Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to address you today. One of the things that hasn't been mentioned is that the county has jurisdiction for 4 of the 5 parcels in question. One of them was within the corporate limits of the village of Addison, which has opposed the project. I think that's a considerable roadblock. I represent Scott Benz and Natalie Steck, who live at 5N041 Medina Road. They're about 200 feet from this proposed development. They have submitted to the record photographs of evidence of flooding in their area, considerable flooding that Mr. Lujan says will be cured by the construction, but there's been no evidence presented to the zoning board after a couple evenings worth of hearings that would substantiate that claim. You've already got substantial problems. Adding construction is not necessarily going to cure it. It may exacerbate it as well. Keep in mind that he's given us a vision of the future where everything is going to be fine here. The septic system won't fail. Remember, we've got a septic system to provide waste disposal for now 60 units. Earlier it was 70 units on a 5-acre parcel. It's just, there hadn't been an adequate explanation of how that's all going to work. I mentioned to the zoning board that once these units are all sold off, we're going to have absentee landlords who will not likely support the infrastructure at the property, leaving the tenants to try to do so. It's just going to be a mess. The developer is going to be long gone at this point. There's been adequate history in this type of development where there's no privity of contract between the developer and the ultimate purchasers, the owners, and no liability under the implied warranty of habitability theory and the law against the contractors because there's no privity of contract. The contracts were between purchasers and the developer. The developer can fold the LLC and be done with it. I think we have to take the big picture here. Workforce housing is a noble endeavor. This is the wrong location for it. When we find the right location or an adequate project that will be able to substantiate this type of workforce housing, then I think it would be appropriate. This is not the one. I urge you to adopt the decision of the zoning board and deny the applicant's relief. Thank you.
Thank you. Told to speak into the microphone so everyone can hear me. Next person, is it Karen Latinum? Sorry if I'm mispronouncing, but she'll be speaking in that position.
Captured the pronunciation properly. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I support the other comments that have been made in opposition to this. I live in Casabella Homeowners Association, which is immediately north of Villa Torino, which is immediately north of the development property. We are within the village of Bloomingdale, and I simply want to highlight that the water issues and the health and safety issues that Village of Bloomingdale has mentioned will immediately affect our small homeowners association, because within our 24 townhouse homeowners association is a wetland and a retention pond for which we are financially responsible as the association. And those are bodies of water that are regulated by the DuPage authority. So anything that streams off this development property to get to the Village of Bloomingdale golf course has to come through our association and will be negatively impacted. So in opposition, speaking as an individual, thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'm sorry, can't see the first name, but Patel is the last name.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to me. My name is Mina Patel. I live at 179 Michigan Court, directly across the street from the proposed subdivision. I also am opposed to this project due to a couple of reasons. Flooding is one of them. Over the last 2 years, we've had 13 storms that were 2+ inches of rain in that area. And the flooding has continued. And if we're saying that this subdivision is going to be built and it's going to prevent the flooding, it's not. It's actually going to make it worse because of the condensed nature of it. There's no place for the water to go. And as you look at how even the Village of Bloomingdale is asking us in our subdivision in Eastgate to manage our driveways, we couldn't even have full driveways for the 3 garages. We'd only be able to propose a 2-car garage driveway that went into the water sewage system. So one around water, two around the sewage. The ability to be able to manage all that sewage, and I don't know if they're planning to take the sewage out on a weekly basis. I don't know what happens. But there's been nothing described on what happens to the sewage of 70+ homes on a yearly basis. It doesn't just dissipate. So I assume there's something that comes and captures all the sewage on a weekly, bi-weekly basis. Three, the emergency vehicles can't get through. School buses can't get through, garbage trucks can't get through. And the snow, when we have substantial snow, there's nowhere to put any of the snow in that area for that new complex. So it would have to be either in the streets or across the street in front of my home. And so for that reason, I oppose the project. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last we have, and again, is it Parag? And I couldn't possibly try to pronounce the last name. I apologize.
My name is Parag Chhatria. I live at 364 Dublin Road. I back up to Medina Road, probably about 2 or 3 houses past the subdivision. I would be exiting and entering my subdivision at the same entrance as one of the openings that they're planning on over there. I don't want to repeat what some of those that have spoken in opposition before me, but some of the points I did want to mention was the parking. This development, all throughout all the proposals, they've never mentioned how guests and visitors are going to park within the confines of their own subdivision. For 70 homes, we expect, more than 4 or 5 visitors coming. In the event of snows, all those parking spots that they're planning in the subdivision will all be, covered with snow, meaning that all those parking people who come to park, contractors, visitors, will all end up parking across the street in our own subdivision. With 70 homes coming, some of the other things that I'm concerned about is the crime and safety of my neighborhood. With 70, with the density of the population and the expected rental units in that area, crime and safety has been a concern in our neighborhood. Crime is on the rise in our neighborhood. We have a park with lots of little kids. We don't want that park in our neighborhood being overrun by, 70 new homes. We would have liked it if this development had their own kind of community park, recreational area, more green space to contribute to the environment. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the number of people who wish to comment. For the record, we do have Thomas Bauer, who is here in opposition but doesn't wish to speak. Bill Belmonte, a Bloomingdale trustee, who is here in opposition but doesn't wish to speak. Karen Johns, who is here in opposition but doesn't wish to speak. And as I indicated earlier, I've been told we had 76 electronic public comments, all in opposition as well, and those names will be entered into the record. That concludes the public comment portion of the meeting. I'll now move on to minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of
Second.
Tuesday, March 5th. There's been a motion and a second. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions? Hearing none, seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Moving on to regulatory services. Even though the Zoning Board of Appeals did vote to deny, our motions at this committee are always made in the affirmative. So I'll entertain a motion to approve DCO-0009-24 zoning 23-000069 Medina Road Residences, a Zoning Board of Appeals recommendation to deny a conditional use for planned development in the R2 zoning district, or what your agenda says is 70 attached dwelling units on 44 building pads, with an exception to reduce the front yard setback from 30 feet to 18, to increase the maximum height from 36 feet to approximately 40, and to increase the maximum FAR from 0.25 to approximately 0.57. Again, this was a Zoning Board of Appeals vote to deny 7-0. Before we begin discussion and a vote on this, I do have a question of our counsel, since it's been indicated by the petitioner's attorney that this petition is going to be amended per se from 70 to 60 units. I'm going to ask our council whether or not it's appropriate for us to take this under consideration now, or whether or not this is in essence a new petition, if you will, for the zoning board of appeals to deal with.
As of this
Counsel?
time, the advice of council would be that a decrease in the number of units of this magnitude, considering the concerns that were outlined by the ZBA, as well as several of the public comments here today, constitutes a concern that could be considered material. And as such, our advice would be to remand this back to the ZBA for consideration as amended.
Okay. I generally don't like to go against the advice of our council, but I did see one hand up, so we can take a couple of questions or comments regarding that. Member Krajewski.
Yeah, in your comment said that, I understand the material change, but you said taking into account what the concerns of the ZBA? Is that what you just?
I'm referring to the memorandum of February 1st, 2024 from the Zoning Board of Appeals.
But is that what you said though?
You got to speak into the microphone.
Pardon me. Can you hear me now?
You said
Okay.
that.
Brian, you have to speak into the microphone. They can't hear us out there.
I got it on, okay.
I'm referring to the findings of fact noted on the February 1st, 2024 memorandum.
But you said the concerns of the zoning board of appeals? Cause I understand a decrease in material, but I read the transcripts and I'm not sure that the concerns that they had didn't relate to the 7 factors.
I misspoke. I'm referring to the findings of fact from that memorandum.
Okay. All right.
Specifically, several of the findings of fact reference a 70 attached unit development, whereas this is now a 60 attached unit development. Yeah.
Okay, we have advice of council to remand this back to the zoning board of appeals. It's my opinion that that advice should be heeded. And that being the case, I don't think we had a motion or a second on this, did we? Okay, will you withdraw your motion to, on this?
Yes.
Because I'm going to ask for a motion to remand this back to the zoning board of appeals.
No, you have to
No,
withdraw.
I think your motion was to accept this. Withdraw your motion. There you go. Okay. Okay. Speak
Second.
into the microphone so that the members and the public can hear you.
Yes, I will withdraw my original motion and make a second motion to remand this to the zoning board of appeals.
And I presume whoever
Second.
seconded it will withdraw the second as well. Is there a second to the motion to remand to the zoning board of appeals?
You did that, Brian. You said, no. Yeah, I second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to remand this to the zoning, back to the zoning board of appeals, given the substantial change. Just one quick comment to the members of the public who are here. I don't particularly like this. I would have liked to have had some kind of resolution, at least from our committee at this particular point. But again, council suggested that we go back to the zoning board of appeals. Perhaps there will be another hearing and there may be a different resolution or a different outcome from the zoning board of appeals. I don't know. We can't really speculate to that, but when council suggests something, it's always my opinion that we should follow that direction. So we have a motion and a second to remand this matter back to the zoning board of appeals. Let's do a roll call. Any discussion on the motion to remand before we, okay, roll call.
Member Guston,
Aye.
Member Krajewski, Member Chaplin. Aye. Member Ozog. Member Rutledge. Aye. Chair Tornatori.
Aye. Okay, and the motion passes. It will be remanded to the zoning board of appeals for further discussion. Is there any old business? Member Cahill.
Chairman, is it appropriate to comment on the you know, the issue that we just discussed, or do we wait and comment on that at some later time?
I guess since we just discussed it, it would be considered old business. So if you
Okay.
want to comment,
So,
Sure.
okay, I just wanted to say that I've been on the county board now for a year. And as an elected official for District 1 and a DuPage County elected official, I have never seen an issue that has been so dramatically opposed by the people of an area close to that development. So as an elected official, I feel like the people are speaking. That is who we represent. They are the most affected by this development. And due to the traffic, the density, the land use and quality, the lack of street parking, the stormwater problems, the septic system, the village of Bloomingdale, the village of Addison, we as elected officials here have to listen to the people who are most affected by this. So I clearly would urge my other county board members to clearly deny this. Thank you.
thank you. And of course, we're not there yet because it's going back to the zoning board of appeals. So we'll, but I appreciate your comments. Any other comments that are old business? Anybody? Old business, new business? Anyone? Okay, there being none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Being no opposition, we're adjourned.